Around me, the silence of failure. I was 45 years old and still had accomplished nothing. I had thought to redeem myself through one great work, and I had bungled. But nature, the great teacher, the healer, soothed me, solaced me, and gave me other food for thought. Water is life. It serves the earth as blood does the human body. It defies its own weight by rising in plants in the form of sap. Others may not agree, but it is so. Water carries at its own speed. It flows downhill. It seeks its own level. Light moves from an object, as do the waves from a stone thrown in water. The rays which make us see do not emanate from the eye as others think. Water increases speed with the decline, propelled by its own weight. There is great power in rushing water and falling weights. Man can make it work for him.
Leonardo did make it work. He was centuries ahead of his time in his understanding the laws of gravity and hydraulics. He could find practical application for everything that he saw. Water wheels for irrigation. Water pumps activated by interconnected gears, the forerunner of the water turbine. Air conditioning devices, power saws, all of them driven by water. He recognized the potential energy in falling weights and used them to design controllable pile drivers, minting machines, an automatic file cutter. He was fascinated with the potential of completely automated machines. He designed clocks, the forerunner of the grandfather clock, and he studied how to transmit power by gears, understanding it so well that he conceived a transmission for the modern automobile. All this took time, even from his courtly duties. Then one day the Duke said,
Messer Leonardo, enough of this. I want a great statue of a horse to glorify my father. It will stand in this courtyard.
I would build this Duke of mine a horse as no emperor ever dreamed. A horse fully 23 feet high and lifelike in every inch of him. It would be a problem to cast so great a mass, but I would solve it. It must be the quintessence of beauty in nature's most graceful animal. I searched for a model, but no horse suited me. I would have to create him.
You dally too long. The Duke is impatient for results.
He has asked Florence to send him 2 sculptors able to perform this work.
Let him search for them. I cannot hurry. Then I began to build. First the frame, and then clay, and more clay, and clay again. The horse in bronze will weigh 100,000 pounds.
He will never keep proportion in that size.
He will not be able to cast it.
He will not be able to move it.
If he does succeed, it will be the greatest thing ever done. Only our city will have so great a work.
Messer Leonardo, move the great horse through the streets into my castle.
It is a miracle.
It is one of the wonders of the world.
A masterpiece among masterpieces.
Messer Leonardo, you are assured of immortality. Breathe, great horse, for surely you are alive.
When will it be cast in bronze?
When will you cast it, Messer Leonardo?
I do not know. The Duke is now at war with France, and there is no bronze to be had for the horse.
It was one of the endless wars of the period. France invaded the territories of the Duke. Town after town fell to the French. Finally, Milan, the capital, surrendered, and the Duke was crushed, and with him Leonardo's hopes.
The Duke has lost the war, and there will be no further work on the horse.
But the giant horse still stood in the courtyard of the ducal palace, now occupied by the King of France. And in the courtyard were camped a company of French usual, a little more bored.
The loot is poor.
The wine is sour and watery.
We have fought a war and gained nothing.
Only that horse, useful only as a target.
Yes, a target. Your crossbows, get your bows.
Whatever the archers left, the rain would wash away. Soon there would be only the wooden frame of the giant horse, and then even that would be gone. Now somehow the years seemed shorter. Leonardo was 48. He was still active and vigorous, but he felt himself in the sunset of his years. He had returned to Florence, and now he was much in demand. They flocked to press their commissions. Some he accepted, but he did little work on them. In these years he seemed less interested in art than in science, especially anatomy. His approach was less that of the painter than the scientist. His observations were methodical, accurate, precise. His illustrations the work of perhaps the greatest draftsman of all time. He was the first man in history accurately to draw the skeleton. to indicate the double curvature of the spine and the function and shape of the vertebrae. Leonardo represented the muscles and noted that they work in groups as well as individually, and that some relax to allow full scope to others, something not fully recognized till this century. He was the first accurately to represent the structure of the wrist and the hand. Years of painstaking, unpleasant effort.
It was nauseous work, but I did not begrudge it. I lived with the Servite fathers, the better to afford my experiments. I had accepted their commission for a Virgin and St. Anne, and at their urging stole time from my studies to draw the carton. It was well received. But I was not satisfied. Would to God that I were able to reveal human nature as I could describe the body. Face upon face of woman I had drawn and worked over. But how could I capture the soul of woman? Wife, mother, temptress, healer, companion. Not a series of women, but one woman to symbolize them all. Then one day, a Florentine merchant, Francesco del Giocondo, asked me to do a portrait of his wife, Mona Lisa. And I had found my ideal model. This painting must be perfect. I hired musicians that she might be at ease while she sat for me. A jester to amuse her. And I drew. Carefully and sparingly, I drew the carton. It took a long time.
It is lovely, but it is a painting I commissioned.
It will come after the carton. Perfection. Once again, I sought perfection. And even the search for that comes slow. Some days I merely looked. On others, I drew a line. I did not care how long it took. It must be perfect. But I despaired my skills were not enough. I took refuge in my studies of birds. In truth, since that great bird came to flap its wings atop my cradle, I had anguish to see the earth as they see it, the clouds and the skies as they know them. The more I studied, the more I understood. I became convinced that man too can fly. I set out to build him wings. For the bird is a living machine, as all living bodies are machines, marvelously designed for natural movement. The bird is adapted to the laws of the wind and the air. It moves effortlessly. It soars, it curves, it flows. It follows the urgings of the air, resisting it as a swimmer against the current, using it as a boat with the wind astern. A rising current seizes on the wings and boosts the bird. Why should it not raise a man? Equip a man with wings, design those wings to be efficient, and man too can rise above the earth. Since the bird, in comparison, is much stronger than man, the wings should be large. The wing of a bat would seem the most useful. The frame should be light and solid. The covering should be strong, resistant. Man may lie downward, the better to see. The total should be light as possible. An air screw would also serve. There are many possibilities. But choose one model and build it. Then pick some high place. Move towards the edge as fast as you can. At the edge, spring unafraid into the void. The current holds you. The earth stretches limitless below you. Be not afraid. Your wings are your salvation, even should you plummet. The hurts will be slight, I know. And once you have tasted flight, you will walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward. For there you have been, and there you would return. Oh, wonderful bird. Oh, marvelous machine of nature. What you so effortlessly do, man can copy. With effort, with pain. But man, too, can fly. This I know. But I was a painter, and was not in the sky, but with the brush that I earned my livelihood. The city of Florence honored me with the commission for a great painting in the Palazzo Vecchio. Some incident in one of the city's battles for independence. Michelangelo was commissioned to do a similar painting, and the two would be side by side in the great chamber. Once again, it was a mural, but this wall was dry. It was an opportunity for one last, enduring work before my fingers grew stiff with age. For months, I tried compositions based on many battles. None suited me. But if it was struggle for liberty that I should depict, then let me depict struggle at its worst. For death is death no matter what the battlefield. Let men be locked in battle. Let it smell of death, and yes, even glory. Carefully, I drew the carton.
It is true war, Messer Leonardo.
They seem to move.
If the painting is one half this drawing, the world will flock to see it.
The paint will be mixed with walnut oil to ensure that the colors do not fade. It allows for more careful work, a technique laid down by the ancient Romans.
A method of the Romans, he says.
Has anyone we know used it? He is vain.
Why should he be different from others?
Messer Leonardo, this will be a masterpiece when it is completed.
But the colors refuse to dry. Look, the paint is still soft.
It is the oil. Light braziers to speed the drying. Keep them lit night and day, but not too bright a fire.
I would suggest lighting candles to the Virgin instead.
Candles indeed.
And a few prayers.
Messer Leonardo, the paint is coming loose.
It is beginning to drip.
Shall we put out the fires? Messer Leonardo, shall we put out the fires?
If you wish.
Nothing could save the great mural. For years it would remain upon the wall, a magnificent ruin, remnant of one of the greatest artistic efforts of the age. Artists from all over the world would come and admire it. Rubens would draw it and call it the most wonderful work in Florence. But it did not seem fitting for the city fathers to sit in a room glorified by a ruin. So one day they would call upon another painter to scrape Leonardo's work away and substitute it with something of his own. A great work would not result, but it would have the saving virtue of being complete, and man always loves completeness. It was the time of long shadows. The wanderings were over. Since Florence, Leonardo had been with the popes in Rome, with Caesar Borgia's armies, but now he wandered no more. He waited at Amboise, seat of the King of France, and Francis I showed him great affection and respect and gave him the chateau. For even now Leonardo shone with brilliance, though his body was partially paralyzed.
The mind outlives the usefulness of the body which holds it. Even in these last hours, it grows impatient with the hand which strains to scrawl. There is so much to do. There was so much to do. And I tried to do everything. Alas, will I be remembered? What remains? Almost all of it is here. The portrait of Mona Lisa, almost finished. How much remains to be done? But even in this state, far too late for the commission. I wished for perfection, but it is not perfect. Not perfect. I did at long last finish the Virgin and St. Anne, but far too late for the good Servite fathers. May they forgive me. I do leave so many notebooks filled with my observations and studies. But how disordered they are. No one will understand the mixture.
Of his life's work, less than 10 completed paintings survive Leonardo. But he did leave mankind thousands of pages of notes, observations, diagrams, and studies, the greatest accumulation of human knowledge ever amassed by one man in the history of the world. Anatomy, inventions far ahead of his time, military engineering, architecture and city planning, flight, hydraulic engineering. Not until the 19th century would we know so much. Natural science, optics, acoustics, astronomy, physics, and mathematics. It would take mankind centuries to rediscover and utilize this knowledge, for the notebooks were not understood, were stored away. Many were lost. Leonardo did well to fear, not for his name, but his legacy.
Say this, that while I thought I was learning to live, I have been learning to die. But tell me, was anything at all accomplished? Was it worthwhile?
Like a bird, he rose above his fellow men, often beyond their sight, almost always beyond their understanding. The price he paid was great. His was the loneliness of concentration. His was the agony of trial and sense of failure. But his was also the joy of knowing, of living the greatest adventure that man can aspire, to pit his mind against the unknown and find the answer. What matter that he was misunderstood? What difference his knowledge was almost lost? The bird soars through the clouds, we know not to what effect, but it is nonetheless sublime. The meteor across the sky flashes only a brief wake, but it creates a star.